Welcome everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now this is another video in the series of me painting my outside house and the rendered walls that I've got. Now we started off the beginning of the year where I'd got a problem with the chimney, and while I'd got scaffold up I thought I might as well just paint the outside of my house, i.e. one side that needed doing while the scaffold was there. So that was the original County Cream from Dulux, and that's Dulux Weather Shield Trade. Can't go wrong with that, can you? I'm not sure. But if you've watched the other videos, the original paint had gone off. The colour fastness, i.e. the light fastness, it had bleached out with the sun, and I thought this will be an opportunity to paint the outside with different paints and see what they're like, comparing it to the Dulux Weather Shield. So I've had Paul at Andura. They've been really good to me, reached out to me and let me try some of their paints out. Their paints had got a slight flex to it, so I could go over some cracks that had got on the house. I also had a big shout out from the people at Brewers, Gary and Sally, and they said, Phil, if you're doing some outside painting, you can try out Albany, and it's all in that playlist. And to finish off this series of videos, I'm going to be using the Bedec. So the Bedec is what you've seen on the thumbnail, and I'm going to talk you through why I'm going to use the Bedec. Now, I'll come on to what the can's like in a minute, but this is the side of the house that I've got to finish. Now, if I spin round, if I can point, this is the chimney wall that I actually painted down with 2 coats of the original Dulux County Cream back at the beginning of the year. Now it was lovely weather and I could get a nice coat on there, and yeah, that's in the past. But now I'm on this side of the house that I have, and I've said in previous videos, I've got some historic cracks in the render, and I'm looking at the camera to see it here. Historic cracks in the render. It's there, and if you can just see, goes all the way up there. Now, over the years, I've done everything to it. I've raked it out, put exterior fillers in, I've put all, what you name it, I've done it. So this time round, I thought, what shall I try? I've tried some of the Prestonet filler that's got some little fibers in it that are supposed to bridge and help with problem cracks. So what I've done, kept it simple, raked them out, dusted them out, coat of peel stop, don't use PVA. A coat of peel stop, you could use stabilising solution. I put a coat of peel stop on, then I did 3 fills with the Prestonet filler. Now it's all in the previous video, so if you want to know a bit more about that, go back to the first one where I was using the Andura paint. But what I've done, I've filled it 3 times. They've been done now, easily a couple of weeks. And I did put over the Andura primer, which is an oil-based primer. So I have given that the best fighting chance that I can possibly do. More than likely they'll come back again. But what I'm trying is these paints that, like the Andura, will go over certain surfaces where you've got cracks. Now, I don't know whether you can just see on camera there, I've got a slight crack just there. I'm not raking that out, and I am not raking out, if we can go down here, can you see there's a crack going down there? I'm going to leave those because what I want to do is see if this paint or these paints live up to their reputation and what their name is, because they're flexible paints. So the job today, I'm going to be giving this a coat this afternoon, and then I'm going to come back tomorrow and give it a second coat. Now, I know some of you that's probably watched the previous video where I used the Andura. I'm going to walk round to that side of the house. So the other side of the house that had got the crack, because I've just gone from that side to this side, is, you can probably see it or probably not, we've got a crack there that goes from virtually top to bottom. I use the Andura paint, and I still use the same process of what I was just describing about raking out, peel stop and that Prestonet filler, and that's been done about a month. I'm not seeing any crack forming yet, so let's keep our fingers crossed on that. This is the back of the house that I use the Albany paint. The Albany paint was made up in Counter Cream as near as you possibly can, because Dulux are really the Counter Cream people. Anything else is just a near match. So that, can you see, it's quite high. I gave it one coat. It was a refresh. It didn't have any particularly bad cracks on it. It's just ordinary masonry paint, and I thought, I don't want to go up there again. It's covered nicely. We've got no issues with that, so I just gave it one good coat. Didn't thin it or anything, and I'm happy with that. But I'll tell you what, let's have a look at what this paint is that we're going to be using today, the Bedec. So here we are. Let's just go through. Dulux, Andura, the Albany, and now we're coming on to this bad boy. Now this is the Bedec. This again, I'll just read what's on the tin because it's probably easier than me trying to explain. This is Extra Flex from Bedec. It's elastomeric masonry paint. Means it's flexible. It's got elasticy properties to it. Now you can use a brush, you can use a sprayer, you can use airless, you can use HVLP, and you can roll it, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Now this, if you've got, let's just back to basics, if you've got bare surfaces and it's, well, we're not on about friable surface or anything that you need stabilising solution. If you're going over a new surface that's newly rendered and it's all properly dried out, if you thin this down by, I believe it's 40, let's just check, yeah, 30 to 40%, that will act as your primer for the coat to go into that bare surface to soak in, and then after that you can actually give it 2 coats. So use this as your primer, thinning down 30-40% if you've got bare surfaces that you're actually coating up. Don't forget, there is no need to be using stabilising solution if you have actual new cement rendered, you know, masonry. You don't need to do that. You only use stabilising solution, i.e. stabilising solution or peel stop, if you have problematic surfaces. So if it's good, go on with a thin coat, just like doing bare plaster. Right, let's talk about this. Right. Should be drying about an hour, and the recoat time is 4 hours. That's not going to be a problem to me today because I'm going to be coating it up for a second coat tomorrow. Now, this has actually got those let's try and speak, elastomeric, feel like I've had a drink, elastomeric masonry paint. Now this should work with 2 coats, and when I say this should work, if you've got fine cracks that need bridging, this paint will bridge those fine cracks. Now if it's slightly bigger, you might find you need to give it another extra coat, but what I would probably say is, if you know you've got cracks in areas, give it a brush full first over those cracks, let that dry, and then come back to it and then give it your 2 full coats like you would do as normal. But I know what I'm doing. I've already done those cracks that are around the side that are quite big. We've already addressed those with filling them properly. So I'm quite happy to go ahead with 2 coats of this straight out the tin. No need to thin it. Job's a good one. We've got a sheepskin roller, and we have a nice, I love the word nice, don't I? It's the Monarch, it's that oval Monarch brush, which is really good for cutting in. So let's just see if there's anything that I've missed. Let's just talk about what it says on the tin. It stretches up to 400%. Now that is up to. That doesn't mean it's always going to be stretching up to 400%. So those little cracks, this paint will stay quite flexible to allow it to actually stretch and bridge those cracks. That's what I'm needing. Right. It's a smooth satin finish, it's long lasting, it's microporous, and if you don't know what microporous means, it means it lets your surface breathe through the paint that's going over it. Anti-carbonation, flexible, fine crack bridging, and it's water based. Now, anti-carbonation, please explain, somebody tell me that. Sounds like something you'd have in a soda stream. Yeah. Maybe. Right, last things I need just to mention, because I have read it on the back. If you have, do not use this, obviously weather dependent. If you know you've got fog, if you know you're going to get some rain coming, don't use it. If your temperatures are suddenly dropping down because you're getting into the wrong time of year to be painting, don't use it. Always use it when you've got nice clear days. I did see it saying, I've just mentioned about the large cracks needing to be cut out and filled. It's not recommended for Felton, stock brickwork or lime wash. What I would say is, if you've got any questions about what this paint can do or can't do, you can always ring the reps up, because David, who's the rep for the Bedec in my area, is at the end of a phone call if I've got any questions, and it's David that's actually said to me, Phil, if you want to try some of our paint, just give us a shout. And I did give him a shout, and he's been really good to send me a sample tin to try out. So let's, you know, without further ado, Pew Barnaby Grew, Cuthbert Dibble and Grub, I'm going to get some of this paint out. I'm going to give it a little bit of a try, and I'll come back to you and give you some feedback. Just mixed it up, just make sure there was nothing on the bottom and the sides. I'm tipping it out. Now, I will say to you, as I did in the previous videos, if you have lichen or mould or algae over your surface of your brickwork, your render, whatever you're going to be painting, make sure you sort that out and use a proper fungicidal wash. Now, that's what I did on my original video of this series. I used the Dulux Trade Weather Shield fungicidal wash. I treated the algae and the bits and pieces that were on there, brushing it on, giving plenty of solution to that area, and then you wash it off the next day. So if you've got the same sort of thing, make sure you do it. Now, let's just try this so far. That feels like it's going to brush nicely, so I'm going to crack on and I will see you in a little while. Okie dokie, we've nearly done the first coat. Now, well, you know what I'm like, I like to stop and have a bit of a conflab between bits and pieces. Now, thankfully the sun's moved around, I'm in the shade now. Can you see the difference in the colour? You know, when I was talking about colour fastness of the Dulux Weather Shield, how it had gone off. It has been done 8 years, so we can't grumble too much. But the new paint going on, I can clearly see where I'm going. And if I move all the way down to a section that is now dry, you see I've bagged all the windows up. Look at the colour of that. It's really, really nice. I quite like that. To be fair, all the paints that I've used, whatever colour it's been trying to nearly match into Dulux County Cream, I've liked it, and it wouldn't have mattered if it was all that colour or still County Cream. They've all looked nice. But what I do want to try and pick up on, I don't know whether I can, if I spin round slightly here, there is a sheen level to this paint that the other paints that we've tried hasn't got. Now, you might be able to see it there. If I press 1, 2, 3 and we spin round, oh, how good's that? That's still wet, but the sheen level to that still stays a bit shiny. Not like a gloss, but like a bit of a soft sheeny look. I don't know whether you can see it. But literally, there you go. There's a sheen there, the areas that are drying off, but that sheen level still stays compared to the flatter finish of what the masonry was before. So let me finish this and I will see you tomorrow after I've got a second coat on. Okie dokie, it's now the next day. I'm going to give this a second coat, and the last few, well, seconds, minutes ago, I was talking about the sheen level of this paint. Now, I can't really, let's just see if I can angle you that way. I can't really explain how nice a sheen level this is. To try and explain it, I would probably say it's more like the, you know, Farrow & Ball's got modern eggshell stroke modern emulsion that's got a slight sheen level. That's what this is compared to, let's just say, the Dulux Weather Shield there that seems to be a flatter matte finish. This isn't a matte finish, this has got a slight sheen, which is actually really nice. And as I'm looking, I don't know whether we can see, as I'm looking up, just there, with the sun going across it, you can actually see, it looks semi-glossy. It's not glossy, it's just a nice sheen level, which hopefully will be good for repelling the rain when it rains onto it because of that flexi coat and things. Let's just get you down onto this. We're just losing the camera there. That's where the crack was. Now you can clearly see where I've filled because we've got a textured render. I'm not too worried about it not matching in. I'm more concerned about that crack not coming back. Hopefully with 2 coats and the filler that I've used just on there, we should be holding that crack off. Certain other areas that we've got on here, we've got some just fine cracks that are starting to be bridged by this paint. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get the ladder up, I'm going to get the second coat on, and we'll have a bit of a summing up at the very end after I've done it. Hello, and we're back, and this is the conclusion of what did I think to this Bedec masonry paint, the Extra Flex elastomeric, I think we pronounce it like that, elastomeric masonry paint, which is supposed to stretch up to 400%. Now, I explained earlier on, I've got some historic cracks that I'd filled, and really I'm just trying to give it a fighting chance to see how we can stop the cracks looking quite bad in 6 months' time. So we're trying this paint out. David at Bedec, he's my local rep, said, Phil, give it a go. And what am I going to say? Have I found the best masonry paint out that I've used this year? Who knows? Time will tell. But so far, let me just talk you through the application. It has had 2 coats, and I've literally, out of a 5 litre, and you can see how much I've done. I've gone from round there all the way to that corner, just there. 2 coats, and as a professional, I can tell you how much is in that tin. There's about that much left in that tin of paint. So as good as 5 litres has done me all that wall. I've not thinned it, it's come straight out the tin. I've done as it says, put it on neat. If we were going over new render, what did I say? 30 to 40%. That's what you thin it down by. But what do I think of it? Application, it felt creamy. It actually felt like you were putting a proper paint on. And people will know what I mean, because the previous videos on that playlist, some of the paints I've tried felt quite thin, easy to apply, but felt thinner. This actually feels creamy. It feels like you're putting a thick coating of paint on. And that's why you needed 2 coats of the actual, this Extra Flex to bridge those cracks. Because certain areas, round window, if I point down there, round window sills where you got little fractures in the render, this is what you need to use because it will bridge. Where does it say it there? Fine crack bridging, and that's what we've wanted to do. We've wanted to fine crack bridge, and we've also wanted to give the best possible chance we can to where I'd done some filling up. But what do I think? Yes, it applied nice. I love that sheen level that we've got from it, and I spoke a few minutes ago, seconds, there's a lovely sheen level to it, a sheen level that I've not seen for a long while. Clearly the Dulux Weather Shield hasn't got it. The Albany, which is on the back of the house, hasn't got a sheen level. It's still a matte finish. And the Andura, which I do like, the Andura Masonry Gard W, very nice paint, feels thin to apply, goes on nice, coverage opacity is great, but it is a flat finish. Now this got a sheen level to it. Let's just talk about that anti-carbonation. You're going to say, what is anti-carbonation? It's all to do with dirt retention and what it actually soaks in. There is something in this paint to make it anti-carbonation. And when you say what is the anti-carbonation, you know when it rains and sometimes you get streaks of water down painted surfaces and dirt. It's the dirt retention on the surface. This is supposed to withstand and hold that sort of marking off. Now, if I can spin the camera around, I don't know whether I can. If you can just see the top of the chimney stack up there. Yes, you can see it. Can you see that mark down there? That is where water and rain run down this chimney breast wall, and it is leaving marks. Can you just see down there? That's with the Dulux. I'm anticipating I hopefully won't see that sort of marking with water running off windowsills or anything at the top when the rain hits it. Hopefully not. But I'm going to say to you, give this paint a go. I'm going to point to just there for when I edit this video. This is the current price for a tin of this in summer 2024. So the price is there. How does that compare to the paint that you're currently using? You'll probably find there's not much in it. Now, an outside like mine, I'll probably get through 6 tins of paint, 5 litres, probably 6. Now, if there's 10–15 pounds difference between this and another paint, if this is more expensive than what you're using, what's an extra 60, 70, 80? What's another £100 on a job compared to the price of labour if you're getting a really nice paint to apply that clearly is priced into your job? I love the finish of this paint. I love how it's applied. I'm going to hopefully, fingers crossed, love what it's going to do for me on these cracks, hold them off. Time will tell, and we'll do a follow-up on it. But if you've not tried something like this, this isn't a run-of-the-mill masonry paint. This is Extra Flex elastomeric masonry paint from Bedec, which is a British, made in Britain paint. It's a paint manufacturer from the UK. Give it a go. I've been impressed. You probably can tell I do like the paint. If I didn't like the paint, I would tell you. Sheepskin rollers washed out, lovely. My 75mm 3-inch Monarch, the oval, has washed out lovely. What more could you ask for? What more could you ask for from a paint? There's probably one downside, probably not so much a negative, but on the back of the tin, I always say to you, read the back of the tin. Right, it says here, due to the elasticity of Extra Flex, in some cases, it may show higher dirt retention in areas of high pollution. So just bear that in mind. If you're in an area that's high pollution, it may just retain a little bit more dirt than you probably anticipate. But saying that, I think you can tell I like this paint. Would I use it again? Definitely.